Senior Manager of TASL, and this is obviously the very first virtual session for the initial principal AP TASL Academy for the 25-26 cycle. Now, real quick, I know you've seen this in the emails that I've been sending out. Just a quick disclaimer: generative AI tools are not permitted in state mandated or state meetings, excuse me. And so, just so you know, if I see one, I will have to remove it. So I'm actually going to scan the list right now just to make sure there isn't one here. All right, looks like we're good to go on that. A question I have gotten, because I know there are some people that really like using those AI tools as note takers. I am going to be providing the PowerPoint that we use today. It'll actually be in a follow-up email that'll be sent towards the end of today to everybody that has been to one of these sessions. So just know that you'll have all this information available to you as well. So we're going to be covering state statute requirements, what it details about the academy in there. We're going to look at how the academy is tied to ILL advancement requirements, and we're going to briefly touch on all the advancement requirements needed to advance the license from an ILL to the ILLP. At that point, we'll then switch over and we'll actually start really focusing on, how the academy is structured for this year, and then we'll go into your requirements for Q1 and what you will need to complete. At the very end of the session, I will kind of detail just very basic information about Q2, kind of what it's going to be over, and then also I will open up to any questions that people may have. If you have questions and you type them in the chat as I'm going through information, just know that I'll probably wait until I get to the Q&A section to be able to answer those. So anything that's put in the chat, it's not that I'm ignoring it. I'm just going to wait to get to the Q&A part to answer anything that's asked at that point. Um, I know this session has been scheduled tentatively for an hour and a half. They've been actually running around an hour. If we get done early, I'll be able to release you all at that time. All right, so state statute 49-5-5703 details that an administrator is expected to complete an academy once every 5 years. You can kind of see it highlighted here in blue. And so really, what that really means for you is that all administrators are expected to complete an academy once every 5 years. There were a lot of people that thought you only had to do the academy once and that was it. But that's not really how it's actually written in state statute. It does detail once every 5. Now, with regards to how the academies are set up, currently the way it's constructed, you will only have to do the initial academy once, and then after you've done the next rounds, you would qualify for the recertification option. So that's why you see I have listed here the 4 different academies that are currently structured the way that they are. Obviously, for all of you here, you're in the initial principal AP, and then once you've completed this, 4 to 5 years after this, you would then look to complete the recertification principal AP Academy if you're still in a principal/AP role. So just know that the academies are a little different from each other. They're not exactly the same, and that is how it is currently structured. The only exception to this is, well, there's really 2, and that is first, if you ever transition to a position that is not a TASL mandated role, then you would no longer need to meet the academy requirement at that point. And the only other is if you qualify for TASL exemption. For those of you who don't know, TASL exemption is when you have 15 years or more in a TASL mandated role. So it's not just 15 years of experience total, it's 15 years or more in a specific TASL mandated position. So, and they don't have to be consecutive years either. So it can be, if you're 5 years as an AP and then you have another 10 as a principal and there was a break in between, it's perfectly fine. But that's what exemption, that's how you qualify for it, is having those 15 years in a TASL mandated position. If you get to that point, you'll just need to talk to your district about how to submit that in Encompass, because then that request then comes to me. All right, advancement requirements. So there are several requirements that you have to meet in order to advance the ILL to the ILLP. It's not just you complete the academy and then you meet advancement. There's other requirements as well as detailed in licensure rule. And so you can kind of see licensure rule up here on the screen. The first, obviously, since this is the academy, we're going to start there. It does detail that you do have to complete the beginner or initial principal or supervisor academy. And then the other option in place of that is if you complete the individualized professional learning plan, but obviously you're all in the academy, so we're not going to worry about that other pathway. Oh, Totally understand that you're having technical difficulties. If you need to log out and log back in, I'll bring you back in. One thing I do want to make a note of when it comes to the actual academy itself is once you have completed it, if you look there towards the bottom, you'll see a blue banner. This blue banner will actually be what appears in your T Encompass account on your TASL tab. Now, obviously, the year will be different because it'll have the 25-26 cycle on there. But that is basically verifying that you met the requirements and you completed the initial or beginner principal academy. One thing I do want to make a note of on the banner, and I'll talk more about this too when we get in May, when we really have our session where I really detail a lot of information about advancement. There's this button that says problem of practice form. You will not need to be concerned with it. It's just an old, outdated part of the system. Just know that the banner itself actually serves as verification that you completed the academy. Another requirement that you have to make sure you have in place in order to be able to advance the ILL to the ILLP is that you have completed the Literacy Success Act requirement. The administrator endorsement is one of the required endorsements. I'm sure at this point all of you have probably done this by now since it's been around. Think it went into effect in August 1st of 2023, but just in case you're someone that hasn't done it yet, it will be required in order to be able to advance the license. So I wanted to mention it here. Now, something that you can all do, and I would encourage all of you to do for one of the requirements now, is to make sure that you're current in all of your TASL cycles. And so one of the things it details in licensure rule for advancement is that you're current in all TASL requirements. So basically that's just referencing that every year you've been in a TASL mandated role, that you've met that 14 credit requirement for each of those cycles. Now there is an easy way for you to audit this information yourself. If you go to your TASL tab in your T Encompass account, once you open it, it will automatically populate to the current cycle, the 25-26, but there'll be a drop-down menu there. You can just change the year, click the blue view button, and then it'll populate all of your actual credits at that time. So just know, unfortunately, it will require you to do it 1 year at a time. So, for every year you were in a TASL mandated role, you'll have to check each year individually. You're not going to get like a master list like you see populated up here on the screen, but that is how you can audit it. Now, if you're going through and you see that you have a cycle in the past that is missing credits, there's really one of two ways to take care of this issue. If it's something you completed during that actual cycle, you just forgot to upload it during that time, you can upload it like you normally would. You would just need to make sure the year is changed to that correct cycle and then click the add TASL attendance button, and then your district person will be able to process it like they normally would. If you realize though that maybe you did not earn enough credits at that time because you didn't have enough trainings that you completed that previous cycle, then what you would have to do in place of that is called the TASL recovery plan. The recovery plan needs to be done in conjunction with your district. So you would actually have to reach out to your central office people and discuss that with them because they have to kind of work with you on actually setting up. And it does require signatures on the plan from both you, your TASL configurator, and your director of schools. So if you're reviewing that information and you see that you are missing credits, those are the two pathways to be able to correct that deficiency. Evaluation scores. So licensure advancement for the ILL to the ILLP is different compared to other educator licenses because it is tied to LOE scores. It details in licensure rule, you can see there highlighted in yellow, that you have to have overall evaluation ratings of at expectations or higher, and it's 2 years on the current validity period of the license. So you have to have 2 years on the current validity period of the license of at expectations or greater LOE scores. Um, a lot of people didn't realize that LOEs are tied to advancement. And so, it's very possible there may be people that go through the academy and complete it, but then they still can't advance the license because they don't meet those LOE markers. If that happens to you, there's no need to panic there. The banner that gets added to your T Encompass account is good for 5 years. So if you meet the requirement in the future, within those 5 years, you can still use the banner as proof that you completed the academy for advancement of the license. Now, I'm going to spend a little more time talking specifically where it talks about the current validity period of the ILL, because this can be where some people might get a little confused on what that actually means. The ILL is only a 3-year license. And so when you renew the license, that starts the validity period over. So in essence, what this is saying here is that if you've renewed the license recently, you can't use any of your previous years as an administrator LOE scores for advancement because it does detail in licensure rule that it has to be on the current validity period of the ILL. So if you just recently renewed your license in the past year or so, then that is the start of your validity period, the start of that 3-year window for you to meet that LOE requirement. So we'll go into more detail on this in May in particular, but I just wanted to kind of touch base on it so people understood that. Now, once you meet all the advancement requirements, you would just have to make sure you submit the correct transaction in T-Encompass. There are 2 different transaction types, and it's very important that you select the correct one for what you're trying to do. If you qualify for advancement, you must select Advance and Active License. You would not select renew license. If you select renew license, then the analyst who processes the transaction is going to do just that. They're going to renew the ILL as an ILL for another 3 years, even if you qualified for advancement, because they're not going to be able to see that because you didn't submit the right transactions. So you have to make sure you submit the right one when you get to that point. Something that I am going to just make a note of, this is just a recommendation that I have for people, specifically individuals whose ILL expires August 31st of 2026. So if you know your ILL is going to expire August 31st of 2026, this is really for you here. It would probably be in your best interest to not renew it right now and wait and see if you meet advancement requirements when you complete the academy in May. And so the good news is your license doesn't expire to August 31st, 2026 at that point. You still have a few months to see, do I qualify for advancement or do I qualify for, or do I have to renew? And then you can go one of those 2 routes. A reason why I really bring this up is because starting January 1, any license that you have that has an expiration date of August 31st, 2026, whether it's an ILL or even an educator license, you're going to start getting emails, automated emails from T-Encompass telling you about it to remind you to renew it. And so again, you're going to want to make sure, I don't renew it at this point just because I need to see if I qualify for advancement in May. Now I will be happy, if I have individuals that you're like, my license expires August 31st of 2026, and you want me to kind of work, talk you through, are you going to qualify for advancement when you get to May? I don't have a problem doing that. You would just need to send an email to the TASL inbox, just kind of asking me to look into that information for you and kind of giving you very specific steps just for yourself on what would be best for you. But I just wanted to make sure I really stress that, just because if you submit a renew license transaction and the license is renewed, then that starts the validity period over. And then obviously, because the validity period would start over, you would not meet that 2-year requirement for advancement, even when you would complete the academy in May. So that's why I said if your license is going to expire August 31st, 2026, tentatively, it's probably best for you to wait to see if you meet advancement requirements and then decide, can I advance or should I renew? All right, so now we're going to switch to just general overview information about the Academy. A lot of this is stuff I've already said before. Obviously, when you complete the Academy, it is going to the blue banner will appear on your TASL tab. But one thing I haven't mentioned yet is that the initial Principal AP Academy is worth 14 TASL credits. So you will get all the credits that you need for this current cycle by completion of the Academy. So just know that those will be awarded to you. Now, it is going to that process is going to be a little bit different than what you're used to. And so I just want to highlight that a little bit. I know all of you at this point are probably very familiar with, you attend a training, you get the certificate or the email that verifies it, you submit it on your TASL tab, and then your district approves it for your credits. That is not what you will do for the Academy. I will be the one that actually uploads all the credits and the banners directly into everybody's accounts. So you will not submit things on the TASL tab for credits. That's not where it'll actually go and not how it'll actually operate. I'll do a batch upload where I will award all the banners and all the credits to everybody all at once everything's been completed in May. So just know it is a little bit different on how the credits will be awarded, but you will be awarded 14 credits for the cycle. If you're wondering just right now, how long will that take? I can tell you the past 2 Mays, the initial Principal AP Academy ends in the beginning of May, and I always have the credits and banners uploaded into everybody's accounts across all 4 different academies by the end of May. So you give it a few weeks and it'll all be in there for you. All right, so just kind of talking about teach all here, one thing that I do have to mention, because I have had like 2 or 3 people that are actually enrolled in the wrong course. You want to make sure you're in the correct academy. This is the initial principal AP Academy. This is for individuals who are principals or APs that have never completed an academy equivalent in the past. Just so you know, it's not how many years you've been as an AP or principal, it's if you've completed an academy equivalent in the past. If you believe you have done an academy or an academy equivalent in the past, if you'll just send an email to the inbox, I'll be able to review that information for you and see if you need to be switched over to recertification or not instead of doing the initial. Now, one thing I do want to talk about with the teach-all system that is mentioned here on this part of the slide deck is that teach-all does not have the ability for you to upload items into it. Like you type everything in, but you can't actually upload a document into teach-all itself. And so if there's anything that I'm asking you to upload, I just want to go ahead and tell you where it will go. Anything that I'm asking you to upload at all, you're going to upload it on your T-Encompass account under your licensure tab where it says attachments, because I have access to everybody's licensure tabs in T-Encompass. Now, one thing I do want to make a note of is while I have access to that tab and I can see anything you upload there, I do not have access to your evaluation tab. And so that's actually the first tab that opens up in T-Encompass. So, and there is an attachment section there. And if you upload something there, I won't be able to see it. So you got to make sure you switch it to licensure and then upload the certificates or documents that I'm asking for underneath the attachment section of your T-Encompass account on your licensure tab. All right, teach all. I'm just going to kind of go through this pretty quick. At this point, I'm sure most of you are probably familiar with it since it's been around for a little more than a year now. What you see up here on the screen is the home screen of your teach all accounts. So when you log in and you actually go there, there's really 2 screens to work with. This is the home screen and the other is the learner dashboard. And we'll talk a little bit about that here momentarily. On the home screen, it'll actually list all the courses that you were enrolled in. You should have all received a link yesterday and the day before in an email that was sent to everybody that provides you the course 1 link. You do have to click on that link in order to actually enroll in the course in Teach All. You will not be able to use the search function in Teach All to find the course. You have to access it through the link. So just know that that's why the links are provided that way. And the way that this academy is structured, there will be a total of 4 separate courses. So in essence, you will be given 4 separate links and you will have to click on each link in order to access each course. You're only going to get each course every quarter. So you're only getting in course 1 right now. In quarter 2, you'll get course 2. And then obviously in January, you'll get course 3. And then so on and so forth, you'll get course 4. Not to get confused, because I know you're going to hear the number 4 quite a bit here. Course 1, Course 2, and Course 3 are all consisting of 4 modules. And so when you enroll in the course, you'll see it appear on your screen like you see here. If you click on it, then you'll see there's a module 1, a module 2, a module 3, a module 4. So just know that the modules make up the course. And so if you think about it in essence, there's going to be a grand total, I believe, of 17 modules in total across all 4 courses, because you're going to have 4 modules for course 1, 4 modules for course 2, 4 modules for course 3, and I believe there's 5 modules for course 4. So I just wanted to make sure I was clear on the actual numbers of each modules and how you would have to do them or where they'd be located. So again, you will get a link to the course for each quarter, and you should only have the link to course 1 currently. When you actually click on it, it'll also show you like a progress bar. It'll show you how much of the modules that you've been completing. Teach-All is designed to be an auto-save system, so anything you type into it, it should automatically save it for you. I do have to give a caveat just because there were a few people, it wasn't a lot, but there were a few people last year in the academy that detailed that they would type something in and they would come back later to finish something, and then what they had typed in was deleted. And so usually when that happens, it's usually tied to something with your web browser. And so a suggestion I have for everybody is, anything that you're going to type into the Teach All modules, I would recommend typing it first on a separate Word document and saving that. And that way you can copy and pull over what you have typed. And if anything gets erased, instead of having to retype everything, which I know would be incredibly frustrating, you can just recopy it back over and pull it in. So again, it is supposed to be an autosave system, but I know there were a few people that detailed that they had typed something in, and when they came back, it was gone. And so, to try and alleviate as much of the stress that that could cause as possible, this is just a recommendation I have there. Now, upon completion of the course, a certificate will be provided. The certificates are located on the other screen, which will be your learner dashboard. The certificates are very important because you do have to have them for me to be able to identify that you've completed all parts of the course. It says it's best practice, but I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that what you will need to do is to upload those certificates under that licensure tab in your T Encompass account on the attachment section. So if you think about it, if there's 4 separate courses and there's a certificate awarded for each course, by the end of the year, you should have 4 separate certificates, one for each that you've uploaded there. Something else too, a week before the course closes, I will actually do an internal audit to kind of see where everybody's at leading up to that final week. I'm not doing it to necessarily send an email out individually to people saying, you don't have the course done yet and it closes, by Friday or something along those lines. I'm just doing it to have an internal audit of where everybody's at. Now, I will tell you, you will get update emails throughout the course. So, here in a couple weeks, you'll get an update email, just reminders about when the course closes. And if there's any like major questions that I've been seeing a lot of people send in, I'll divvy that information out to everybody all at once in these update emails, because it's obviously something that may be a reoccurring question people may have. And then also too, this will go out to all the people who are enrolled. So it's not specifically designated just to an individual. I send everything out to everybody just so everybody has access to everything. All right, virtual sessions. So this is obviously the first one. If you look there on the screen, you can see the dates and times for each of your virtual sessions, the learning sessions that'll take place. And so all the dates and times are correct. And so I'll talk a little bit about here. You might see something a little off place in terms of the actual, there seems to be a pattern, but then something seems broken in your pattern. So I'll tell you why that is the case here momentarily. Attendance will be taken at each session, so just know that I have a way to pull an attendance log, and so I do that at the very end of the session. So you don't have to, you don't have to send me an email letting me know that you're here or anything like that, because I can just pull the log off of Teams directly. Now, the most common question I get about these sessions is, since we have to attend them, what if I'm looking at the schedule and I already realize, like, for example, your all's next required session is October 29th. If you're looking at your calendar, you're like, I know I cannot attend that session October 29th at 9 o'clock. Is it all right if I attend a different session during that same week? So maybe it works better for me to attend the first Tennessee one on October 28th. That's perfectly fine. I get it. You all have a lot going on. Things happen. If you cannot attend your session, it's okay. You can attend one of the other sessions if you need to. That also allows, if you have multiple people in your building in this academy at the same time, obviously, you probably don't want to have everybody attending all one session at the same time. So if you want to have people divvy it up across different times and days, that's perfectly fine as well. One thing though that I would encourage you is, if you are, you're looking at this and you're like, I'm going to have to, switch to a different session. First, you don't actually have to tell me that you're going to switch to a different session. That's why I actually provide in the emails the dates, times, and links to all the sessions to everybody so that everybody has access to it. But something I would make a note of is that, I do have to put both Eastern time and Central time on all of the dates and time sessions. And so that go out into the emails. So just make sure that if you're going to, for example, you're looking to attend one of the sessions in East Tennessee, that you're aware of the hour difference there. So just want to, make note of that. The thing I talked about briefly was, you'll probably notice here that if you looked at your session, you have October 29th at 9 o'clock, but then Southwest is October 30th, but and all the others, it seems like y'all's are always the same day. I had to switch the days there just because for that session in October, it's primarily going to be led by your core region's ELA specialist. And so I wanted to work with their calendars and what would work best for them. If I'm being honest here, the two sessions that are in your best interest to try and attend that are specifically designated for your core region are the one in October and the one in January, because you will actually get FaceTime with people that are core specialists to your core region. Now, if you can't perfectly understand, you can still attend a different one, but you're going to get the core region for the other core region that you're attending, not necessarily your person. So just know that the ELA person will be the primary lead on October 29th, and then the math core specialist for your region will be the primary lead for the one in January. And then as it details here, there will be a closeout session in May that really focuses on just advancement of the ILL to the ILLP. Now, office hours. Office hours are not to be confused with virtual or learning sessions. The learning sessions, while you are required to attend those, the office hours are not required. You do not have to attend them. It's just an opportunity for you to ask any questions to me directly that you may have. I'll be opened up in the Teams call and everybody will have access to. And just so you know too, I don't want you to think that you have to wait for office hours to ask questions. If you have questions, feel free to send those to the TASL inbox. Obviously, any questions we get, we'll turn around as fast as we possibly can. Or I should say I will, because I'm the person that oversees the TASL inbox. So just know that if you don't have to wait or you have to attend an office hours to ask a question, you can still use the inbox if you would prefer that because it's faster. Now, the office hours are structured a little bit different. They're not done by core region, they're done by grand region. So you can kind of see here, East, Middle, and West. Again, you don't to attend any of these sessions as they're just an offering to you. But even then, if you do attend because you have a question that you want to ask, you don't have to attend, the one for West Tennessee. If it works better for your time slots, you can do Middle or East. Something you may notice here on the offerings for the office hours is that there seems to be a high concentration of offerings in March and April. And the reason why, there's really two reasons. First and foremost is because quarter 4 is actually the largest quarter of the academy, and the reason why it's structured that way is because I know that that's also around the testing season, and a lot of you are going to have that on your plates, and so I wanted to build in more time to try to work around that as much as I possibly could. So that's why there's more opportunities there for office hours than in any other courses or quarters. The other reason too is I'm also aware that's around the time of people's spring breaks. And so if you really have a question that you want to ask, and it just so happened that, the office hours fell on your district spring break, I didn't want you to feel like you have to attend it to ask the question, take time away from your spring break. So, that's why I have multiple opportunities there in quarter 4 specifically for office hours. So that way hopefully you don't feel like your time is crunched as much, because I know there's a lot more going on at that time of the year. All right, so now we're going to actually look into quarter 1's requirements. Quarter 1 focuses on observations, and so what you're going to hear me talking is primarily from what's built into the modules, what centers around the team evaluator model. But I am aware that there are districts that do not use the team model. The most common one I've heard is Project Coach. If your district uses a different evaluation model that is approved, then you can complete everything using your evaluator model. Okay, so I don't want you to feel like, if your district uses Project Coach, you're going to have to do all of this with the team information. That's not the case here. I don't want you to, do something that doesn't benefit you in your district. So, but it is built as team evaluator in the modules, because I know that's what most people across the state actually use. So, but just be aware, if your district uses a different model, it's perfectly fine. There is a way that you will actually use your model in place of it. So quarter 1 really started at September 8th, but obviously it runs to October 27th, end of day October 27th. So that's when everything in quarter 1 has to be done. This is the main date I just want to stress, is that you must have all 4 modules in course 1 done by October 27th. Now, if you look up here on the screen, I know your eyes probably went pretty quickly to the other dates that are listed, because you see a date for September 19th and a date for October 3rd. I want to make sure I'm clear on this. Those are not due dates. Those are just recommendation dates that I have for you to complete those modules by. But again, Module 1 does not have to be done by September 19th. It's just my recommendation there. Module 2 does not have to be done by October 3rd. What's really important is that you have all 4 modules done by October 27th. Now, I will be transparent here. I am going to do an audit after each of those dates just to kind of see how many people got Module 1 done, by September 19th and Module 2 by October 3rd. But again, I'm not going to be sending an individualized email to you saying, you didn't get Module 1 done by September 19th. That's for. It's just for me to kind of gauge how people are actually completing everything through. Because the way that the courses are structured in Teach All, it is meant to be able to allow you to kind of complete them at your own pace. You do not have to wait to move on to the next module. So like it's not like you have to wait till module 2, or excuse me, September 20th to move on to module 2. If you get module 1 done, you can move right on into module 2 and so on and so forth. Uh, Now, when it comes to what is going to be expected of you with these observations, you are going to need to have a co-observer with you to complete everything. Now, the co-observer can be another assistant principal or a principal within your building. It can be another assistant principal or principal in your district or in another district, or it can be a district level instructional supervisor. I'm going to open that up to you to let you decide who you would prefer to have as your co-observer. But whoever you ask, you can let them know that they themselves are not going to have to upload or provide any documentation in Teach All, because it's really just focused on the information that you're providing. But they are meant to be part of the process here. So the outline, module 1 is the introduction, and it really focuses on the team evaluator training. Module 2 is the pre-conference section. Module 3 is the actual observation itself. And then module 4 is post-conference and reflections. So module 1 is really broken up into 2 parts. At the very beginning, it just kind of does an introduction into Teach All and talks about the system itself. I'm just going to kind of move on past this. But what really important for you is in module 1, it's going to focus on team evaluator training. You are going to have to show proof that you have completed the evaluator training to be able to move on past this. It's very simple. If you have already done the team evaluator training, then you are good there. You just need to make sure the certificate is uploaded into your T Encompass account, because then obviously I can access it. Now, if you haven't done it yet and your district uses Team Evaluator, then you would need to do that and then upload the certificate. Obviously, if your district does not use the team model, but instead uses a different model that's approved, then you would just need to upload the verification that you are certified with your model into T Encompass. So just know that that's really what this module really focuses on, is completing of the trainings to have you certified as an evaluator. Again, I'm sure, especially the districts that use the team model, I know that you're probably already certified. So I'm not going to ask you to do that training again if you've already done it to be certified for the 25-26 school year. So I don't want you to think I don't want you to think, I've already done this before. Do I have to do the training right now again, even though I'm already certified? No, you don't. You just have to show proof that you've done it once that has you certified for this cycle. Module 2 is focused on the pre-conference section. In general, modules 2 through 4 focus on the actual observation process. There are 2 things in module 2 that you will need to complete. The first is tied specifically if your district uses Team Evaluator. It is the actual, they call it the norming session. There's a direct link built into the module itself that you can use to access that. Both you and your co-observer will need to make sure you access the norming session. It's just kind of like a PowerPoint guided information that really kind of norms individuals when they're evaluating using that model. And then the pre-conference section, there is, I do have in the model, it's built in the model, the sample that educator effectiveness has in terms of pre-conference note taking and that sort of thing. But if your district uses their own pre-conference tool, you can use that in place of what's built into the module. You will just have to obviously upload that in your attachment section under your licensure tab to show me that you did your district's approved pre-conference model instead of the one that educator effectiveness provides. But both you and the co-observer will need to be in on the pre-conference with the educator. You will be the lead in the meeting. The co-observer is really just there to take notes and provide any feedback to you that they have based on how the session went with the educator and things that maybe they heard in the actual pre-conference that they wanted to make sure is something that you both are taking note of when you're going through and doing the actual observation. Module 3 is the observation itself. One of the most common questions I have gotten from all the other virtual sessions that we've had this week over course 1 has been, can we use this as an official observation, or does it have to be just a kind of like a sample run through observation in place? This can be used as an official observation. You do not have to add another observation on top of the ones you already have to do that have already been assigned to you. The reason you can do an official observation and complete this alongside of it is because nowhere in the modules is it going to ask you to provide the numerical scores of how you scored the educator on the observation. So I'm not going to ask you to identify how you scored them for each indicator on the model. So because of that, that obviously protects that information. You can complete an official observation that you need to complete anyways while you're doing this, instead of just setting up a sample observation to do. Module 4 is the post-conference and reflection section. Again, both you and the co-observer will need to be in on the post-conference with you as the primary lead. Just know that it's the same situation here. Their goal here is to just take any notes and kind of listen in on the actual conversation. And then once the post-conference is done, at that point, you would have interaction with one another about any feedback they provide based on what they heard. One of the things we would encourage you to do is to actually kind of show how each other scored the lesson. And it's not so much to like influence your decision on how to score them. It's more so to see, were y'all very aligned in how the norming session was supposed to work, to see if you scored them very similar in most categories. That's really what it is there. I'm not asking for you to change anything based on what they did. It's just really just to kind of see how you and the co-observer, kind of viewed the actual lesson itself. Again, the co-observer will not have to provide any direct information. I think in the question section that it has in Module 4, it may ask you to identify, what were the areas that you were the most aligned in based on the observation, what were the areas that you were the least aligned in. But it's not going to, again, ask you to give numerical scores there. And then at the very end, it has a series of reflection questions about the observation system, and then just, kind of how this whole process went for you and that sort of thing. At that point, you will have completed all the modules. Something very important just on the technical side is each module should have its own little submit button. It's very important to make sure you hit that for each of the modules, because if you don't, it will not generate the certificate at the end when you have finished everything. And so especially if you do that on module 4 in the course, because it is going to require everything to be submitted in order for the certificate to be generated. When you go to upload that certificate in your T-Encompass account under your licensure tab, I have here what I would encourage you to actually title it as Quarter 1 Initial TASL Academy Certificate of Completion, mostly because if you identify each certificate with the quarter that it goes with, then obviously when I go through at the end of the year to upload the credits and the TASL banner everybody's accounts, I'll see those certificates clearly identified with each quarter. And, I have to click on it and check on each one, but I'll know that that is what it is. Because, when you click on the download PDF button for the certificate, PDFs generate kind of random numbers for their like download if you save it that way. So that's just why I encourage you to change the actual name, so that way I know that's exactly what I'm looking for. All right. Just quickly talking about Quarter 2. Quarter 2 will start where Quarter 1 ends, so it'll start on October 27th, and it will run through December 19th. It will focus on the ELA Instructional Practice Guide, and like I said, the actual virtual session will be primarily led by your core region's ELA core specialist. There are 2 ELA IPGs. There is the knowledge building, which is the K-12 one, and then there is the foundational skills, which is, I believe, pre-K3. All intents and purposes for the academy, we're going to focus on the knowledge building one. We're not going to actually focus on the foundational skills IPG. Alrighty, and so just some contact information to kind of share with everybody. There's that, and there's a few others that aren't even listed here. I'm also going to talk about. First and foremost, any questions that you have about the academy or completing it or completing your task, send those questions to tassel.information@tn.gov. Again, I'm the person that oversees that inbox. I'm the only person that answers emails from that inbox. So just know that when you send an email to that inbox, it's not just going off into the void and you don't know who it's going to be answered from. It's going to be answered by me. It will not have my name attached to it because obviously it's the inbox that it's tied to, but it is me that's actually responding back to you. So you can rest assured knowing who you're getting the email from. I typically say to give me about 48 hours to respond to any emails that come in, but I always try to turn them around much faster than that. The only time that it may take a little longer is during weeks like this where I have all the virtual sessions taking place. It may take me a little bit longer to get to the emails, but I try my best to turn those around just because I know the sooner I can get you the information, the sooner you can take care of the things that you need to take care of. If you have technical questions, specifically with T Encompass, because you're having issues there with maybe like logging into your accounts and that sort of thing, you would reach out to support@tencompass.org, so they can kind of help you with the logins. On a separate note, if you have technical issues with Teach All, it has a separate email address. It's not listed up here on the screen. So if that happens, if you're having issues logging into your Teach All, or maybe you clicked the enrolled button when you clicked on the link to the course, but then when you got into your actual login, you can't seem to find the course on your actual home screen, just reach out to the TASL inbox and I'll be able to provide you that email address to Teach All's technical assistance, because it's overseen by LMS, and so I can make sure that I get that to you. The last kind of support email or support, that I'm going to really talk about here. While this is TASL, it intertwines with licensure, but it's not exactly one and the same, obviously. But if you ever have any licensure questions about any of your licenses, whether it's the ILL or your educator license or anything along those lines, it's always actually in your best interest to reach out to your district's HR person first, and see if they can help you there. And if they can't help you, they actually know who to go to because every grand region has a regional licensure specialist assigned to it. So there's a person for East Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, and one for West Tennessee. And so if you ever have licensure questions, your central office person will know who to go to get help there. One thing I would make a note of, you can kind of see this little box here at the bottom. If you reach out to tassel.information@tn.gov, it asks for you to make sure your name and your license number and the last four digits of your social are there. You don't have to provide me the last four digits of your social. The truth is the main information I need is the license number. If I have your license number, then I can pull up your T Encompass account if I have to look in there to kind of verify some information for you. So again, if you reach out to the TASL inbox, just make sure that you provide both your name and your license number so that way I can, take care of your inquiry as quickly as I can. Alrighty, with that being said, I'm going to stop the recording. So bear with me just for a minute.